Welcome back to Scrap Cooking. I'm Harriet Clooney, and this is the amazing Urban Element Kitchen, and this is Scrap Cooking, the show where we're going to show you how to save all the little bits and bobs that you've got that you may usually put in the compost, and I'm going to show you how to use it. Today's episode, we are gonna be making a mac and cheese with a cauliflower cheese sauce that we made in a previous episode, and with some breadcrumbs. And I'm gonna show you two different ways to make breadcrumbs. So let's get started. Okay, so right before we start, don't forget to hit the like button and the subscribe button, and that way you'll be able to get new episodes as soon as they're uploaded, as well as go back and see other episodes and get the recipes. So now for our mac and cheese. First thing we are going to do is I've put this pot of water on, and it is warm, but it's not. So we want it to be boiling so we can cook our pasta. So I'm gonna put a good chef pinch of salt in there. And while we're waiting for that to come to a boil, I had put some bread in the oven. So it's been overnight. Now this little crust end, I am going to put in the fridge. I like fridging it because it's gonna be easier for when we make breadcrumbs. And there's some pieces of it that we're gonna put in the oven overnight for a different kind of breadcrumb, but this one I'm just gonna put in the fridge to kind of like stales it, which we want, but it doesn't make it rigid, which we don't want. So that piece I'm gonna put in a bowl, completely uncovered, just like that, in the fridge. And then in a couple days, we'll make some Panko breadcrumbs, which will be fun. On the lowest setting on the oven possible, but it was still a little bit warm, so I put a tea towel in the door. So they're nice and dry, you can tell, because they'll just kind of crumble. And then I've also got some bread that I put in the fridge. So we're gonna make two different kinds of breadcrumbs. So the ones that were in the oven, we're gonna make standard breadcrumbs, super fine. And these ones are gonna make us some Panko style breadcrumbs, which is a Japanese style of breadcrumb. So they're a little bit thicker. They're usually just white. They actually, when they make it, it's pretty cool. They actually electrocute the dough. So it cooks sort of all at once, and there's no browning on the outside. But we didn't do that. But we did have some bread that we weren't gonna use, some of the crusts, and so we put it in the fridge. And I just find that that helps it, when it's super fresh, it's really hard to grate. But now that it's kind of cold and like pseudo stale, we're gonna use it. So if you don't have a food processor at home that's got a grating insert, don't worry, that's okay. You can use a grater. It takes a little bit longer, this is true, but it's doable. So we're gonna take our piece of bread and we're just gonna grate it. And careful not to get your finger. Just going up and down. The bigger pieces that don't grate all the way, we can tear them into smaller pieces with our fingers. And we can get them with a knife too. But yeah, we've got these sort of irregular shaped pieces, which is what we want. So you can do that with all of them if you so desire. But the fastest way is over here. We've got this grater insert. And on one side you can have a fine blade, and on the other side you can have the medium. So we're gonna go on the medium. And we're gonna make sure that it's all where it needs to be. And then we're going to add it in. look at that. We've got some breadcrumbs that are irregular shapes. And well, they're just bread right now. So I'm gonna put it on this sheet tray. I've got my oven. You could put them in the oven overnight, like we did with the other bread, and then put them away. And you can wait until you need them. But since we're gonna use them today, I'm gonna put them in the oven at a slightly higher temperature. So I've got my oven at 300, because we're just gonna speed it along a bit. So I'm just gonna throw them in there for about 10 to 20 minutes to completely dry out. And in the meantime, so all these pieces that didn't want to get grated, I am also gonna put on a tray, and I'm gonna throw them in the oven overnight and make traditional breadcrumbs with those. Now, we're gonna go back to the food processor. I've taken out the grater since it wasn't my friend today, but that's okay. Now I've got the regular blade, and we're gonna add our breadcrumbs in there. And it's gonna get loud. And we're just gonna pulse it if it wants to work. Okay, that looks great. So I've got just plain old fine ground breadcrumbs, which is good for tons of stuff. You put it in meatloaf, put it in meatballs, or on top of mac and cheese like we're gonna do. Though I do personally prefer the panko ones, but you can also mix them together. But yeah, so if you're not gonna use them, I would put a piece of paper towel, fold it up, just in case you get some condensation in there. So you don't want it to be wet, because then it'll get moldy. So I'll put that in there. So we're probably not gonna use all of these today, so we will wanna save them for a rainy day. There we go. Okay, so I'm time to put my noodles in the pot. We have achieved boilage, and so we're just gonna add, I've got 2 cups of noodles here. So I'm gonna add them into my salted water, and I'm gonna make sure that I give them a good stir, because if I don't, then they're all gonna stick to the bottom. And that's really not what we want. So we're not gonna cook them all the way through, because it's gonna keep cooking in the oven, and we don't want mushy noodles. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna cook it till it's a little more than al dente. Not crunchy, we don't want that. So if it says that they'd be ready in 12 minutes, then we'll do sort of 9 minutes. If it says 8, then we'd sort of do 5, 6. And these ones are 8 minutes, so we're gonna set a timer for 5 minutes and give them a check. And then if they're still a bit hard, we'll let it go for a minute or 2, and then we're gonna strain them. But my timer has just gone off for my panko that I have in the oven. Oh yeah, perfect. So you hear that's a good sound. And if it crumbles in your hand, they're good. And we're gonna put that aside to cool. And every minute or so, we're gonna stir our noodles again so they don't stick to the bottom, which they really want to do. Gonna taste one of my noodles. Ah, and they are good. Oh, I'm gonna get my strainer. I'm actually not gonna dump all the nice starch water just in case I need to thin my sauce out. So I'm gonna pour a little bit into this bowl just in case. But I'm gonna put it back in the pot. Excuse me. And I've got my lovely sauce that we made in a previous episode with the cores and the stems of the cauliflower, as well as some sort of dried out cheese ends. There we go. So we want to make it hot. Oh yeah, that looks good. So I don't think I'm gonna need any of the extra water, but I am gonna put it back on the burner, but I'm gonna turn it down to medium because we wanna heat the sauce up so that it's not gonna take super long in the oven. But we're gonna keep stirring it as we go because it will start burning on the bottom of the pot, and we don't want that. So this will take maybe between 3 and 5 minutes to get your sauce heated up. All right, so it's been about 5 minutes and my sauce is hot. And if you wanted to add extra cheese, there is already cheese in my cauliflower cheese sauce. However, if you wanted to go really big, you could add cheese. This would be where you added it in, some shredded cheese. But I like it how it is, so I'm not gonna add any extra cheese, but we've got this beautiful, creamy sauce. And I didn't forget about the cauliflower leaves. I put them aside, so I'm actually gonna dump those in there, and if you had some parsley or another herb, you could add them in as well if you so desired. And I'm just gonna give that a stir, and then we're gonna pour it into my pan. I've got a 8-inch pan here. There we go. And I'm gonna spread it out. Oh, that looks good. So now my next move is, I didn't end up needing to use it, but if your sauce was a bit thicker and you wanted to thin it out, that's where I would use the starch water. But for me, I did not need to. So now I'm gonna take some of my panko. Say I'm gonna take about half of that. And I'm gonna take a little bit of my other breadcrumbs and some olive oil. It's gonna help it brown a bit. We're gonna get about a tablespoon and mix it all around so that each little piece of breadcrumb has a little bit of oil on it. And then we're gonna put this on top. And just make it nice and even. Oh, that looks good. I'm excited. All right, so I have put my oven on broil because really we're just trying to brown the top of my breadcrumbs, as the pasta is already cooked and it's hot, so I don't need to put it in the oven for like an hour like you would if it was cold. So it's ready to go. So I'm gonna put it in the oven on broil, and it's hot, so I'm gonna use my tea towel. Yum. All right. Got a lovely mac and cheese, little casserole, little baked guy. Yum. Oh yeah, that looks awesome. You can really smell the cauliflower and the nice toasty smell from the breadcrumbs. And it's gonna be molten hot, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Oh, it's really good. Yeah, that's some good mac and cheese. Awesome. So you could also just bake it at 350 for like 45 minutes. We'll also do it, but I was impatient and wanted mac and cheese now. So we just browned the top and have delicious mac and cheese for dinner. Love that crunch. So thanks for watching the episode. Today's episode on cauliflower cheese sauce, mac and cheese with 2 different kinds of breadcrumbs. And we'll see you next time.